Grissel Bloodsong, Marshal of the Creels. Grissel Bloodsong stands as a bastion amid the storms devastating the lives of her people. Both warriors and elders of the Creels look to Grissel to be the voice of reason when all else fails. They trust her to save their people, whether a shrewd word or the booming of her explosive voice and hammer on the battlefield. Grissel assumes the mantle of Marshal of the Creels in that difficult and dark time when Madrak Ironhide felt compelled to isolate himself from his people as he sought a solution to the curse of Rathrock. She had long been looked to as the leading figure among the warriors of the United Creels, but this time period cemented her stature. Though this role was somewhat thrust upon her, she shouldered its responsibilities with courage, conviction, and inventive creativity, preserving the displaced kin even when beset on all sides by hostile enemies. When Madrak returned to lead his people to new lands, Grissel went with him and has retained her position. Leadership in the Eastern Creels is shared between them, and she has worked tirelessly to build a lasting home for their people and to organize them into an army that will endure any hardship. Grissel knows survival is tenuous, and that ultimately no soil is more important than the lives of her kin. The wars they have endured were not of their choosing and required difficult choices. She has learned from these lessons and gladly fights alongside her warriors. Asking nothing of them, she would not risk herself. With her willingness to embrace all weapons, they can seize the Trollkin see Grissel as a welcome bridge between older traditions and the new ways that might be required to preserve their futures. Proving her pragmatism, Grissel has made short-term arrangements with outsiders, including mercenaries and other warlike tribes of the remote wilderness. She uses all her wits to keep the argumentative leaders of the Creels united. With every passing day, she proves the wisdom of Madrak's faith in her. She will not rest so long as her people are endangered, using every ounce of her cunning and courage to preserve them from extinction. And yeah, Grissel Bloodsong as a leader of the Creels while Madrak was going is always something nice that more leaders will stand up with the Creels when Madrak himself cannot. Or, he's working with that Rathrock, the Cursed Axe, as we mentioned in a previous chapter. So, yeah, another, marshal, lieutenant, whatever, helps keep the Creels united and keeps them going. So, she is definitely worth her weight in salt. Or gold, depending on which ones you see more valuable. But let's read her Mark 3 to Mark 4 changes, see if there is any. She did quite a few changes last edition, so let's see what we got here. Alright, and as always, let's start with stat lines. She is a speed 6, magic attack of 6. Her mat is still a 7. Her rat is now a 7, so that's been a little bit improved. I think we saw that in the last version of her as well. Defense is a 15, arm is a 17, and she still has stuff because she's still Trollkin, and she still has dual attack because, every warcaster / warlock has dual attack just because, they are trained for combat as is. And let's go over her abilities real quick. Alright, now I see an improvement in her abilities. I imagine in this Mark IV, she's more of a leader of her people. So they switched out her Unyielding, which gave her a +2 arm against melee attacks, and they switched it over to Tactician. And Tactician is a very awesome spell, or awesome tactic, because it allows every model within 10 of her, like all friendly models, to ignore friendly models when determining line of sight. And then friendly models can advance through other friendly models within the 10 inches if they have enough movement to get completely past them. And for an army made up of a lot of medium bases, large bases, and a couple gargantuan bases, having the ability to see through each other and shoot through each other is a godsend, and you would love to have that. And I have used that many times in my time playing this game. So yeah, I see that as a huge improvement. But let's check out her weapons and see if anything has changed there. Alrighty, we'll start with her, of course, fantastic Fell Blast voice. And in her upgraded, her voice is also upgraded, so that's always nice. Still jumped up to a rat of 7, range 8 on this one, no longer a spray. This one's actually an AoE, so that's a little different. Last version was a spray. She has rate of fire 3, so she can fire 3 times with this weapon. An AoE of 2, so 2 additional models at 2 inches away. And then the power is a 14/8, and it's a magical weapon. And a fun thing, this actually has attack types on it, so you get to choose whenever you're making an attack what the attack does. So it appears that we kept crescendo, however you want to pronounce it. Then place a 3-inch template on the model targeted. A model entering or ending its activation in one or more of Crescendo's templates suffer a POW 7 blast damage roll. So that's actually pretty fantastic there. Although if they do have blast resistance, that is one less die on that, but that's still free damage, and you can never block some free damage. Template remains in play for 1 round, so yeah, you can really start tossing some stuff to keep some people wanting to run through, especially low armored people like elves. And the next ability you can choose for this weapon is Quake. So on a direct hit, models hit become knocked down, and this being an AoE of 2, you can knock down up to 3 guys, and you have a rate of fire of 3, so you spread that around and knock down an entire front row if you really need to. And then the last one, the weapon gains pistol, and its base stat becomes spray 10. You remove the AoE, and it's a POW 12, so much like her original, she can go back to her spraying attacks. So always useful there. It's kind of nice they allowed her to do that, and it's super nice they gave it pistols, so if somebody is in her melee range, that having that additional ability is always nice if you can go back to what you're good at. Then her hammer, it's a hammer. Sorry, I had to look at her picture here. It is a MAT 7, although this one is a little shorter than other hammer. It goes back to range 1 and a POW 14, and it has magic weapon and critical smite. So on a critical, the model hit is slammed d6 inches directly away from the model. If the model hit is larger than her, it only is half that distance, and the power of the collateral damage is equal to the power of weapon. So at a POW 14, you can do damage pretty good to lower armed enemies, and if you're fishing for crits at least. Let's go over her feat real quick. And her feat is basically the same. Call to Valor, or Call of Valor. Friendly faction models currently in her control range gain reposition and unyielding. And then it lasts for 1 round. And both those abilities on Trollkin that are already super, hefty anyway, adding additional armor to them while they're in melee. And then the ability to reposition after they don't fail a run or they did not run or fail a charge. That gives them incredible mobility, especially like she's already a movement 6, which is pretty quick, but adding additional movement or allowing you to reposition in areas that makes your enemies a lot more annoyed because they can't charge in is pretty phenomenal. So, and that actually kicks her arm up to a 19, so it's fantastic on her. But let's see what kind of spells she still has, and see if anything has changed there. And looking at it off the top, does not look like any of her spell lists changed. Thank goodness, because the last version of it changed quite a bit. So she still has dash, which the spellcaster and friendly faction warrior models, very specific, models activated in her control range gain +1 speed. So that is phenomenal. They removed, of course, the parry off dash now because you don't need parry anymore. Although having the ability to move past enemy models without having to lose your attack is cool, but maybe they just had to nerf that down a little bit for the Mark IV, which makes sense. Alright, and moving on, it looks like she still has deflection, which is phenomenal. It's still while in the spellcaster's control range, friendly faction models gain +2 defense against ranged and magic attacks, so giving them the ability to kind of be more dodgy is always nice. And with her, since she's in her spellcaster's control range, gets her defense up to a 17, which is ungodly for any Trollkin. So yeah, most likely she's not going to be shot at by very much. And very good at protecting her people around her, at least making them much more difficult to hit. And then it appears she still has her Discord spell as well. So target model in the spellcaster's battle group gains Wailing. While within 5 inches of a model with Wailing, enemy models cannot cast or channel spells. And yeah, that is very, very useful, and I have used that spell when I was taught it many a times on the battlefield, because you can shut down spellcasters, especially if you have, a little bit quicker war beast that you can, jump behind enemy lines and really, muddle up the whole thing. It used to affect models with orders as well, but since orders are not used in Mark IV anymore, It just does spells, so it's still a very, very solid spell, and it's upkeepable, so you can toss it on your little quick guys and shoot them up there as quick as possible. So yeah, but it looks like she is definitely a very pro trooper warcaster here. The ability to give her guys unyielding on her feet turn, give them reposition on her feet turn, give them dash, making them faster as is, and then giving them an additional, two defense against ranged and magic attacks. Yeah, she is definitely a fantastic caster to keep units going forward. And on top of all that, not only does she make them faster and harder to hit and harder to damage, she also gives them tactician too, so then they can shoot through each other as if they're not there and move through each other as if they're not there. So yeah, no, she is a phenomenal caster, and I do not look forward to seeing her on the battlefield if I have to go up against her. So